Howdy, Space Rangers, Captain Phoenix here. My oh my, are things coming to an end? Both this year and next year, a lot of sagas and a lot of long-running like movies and series are coming to an end. This year alone, the Hotel Transylvania movies came to an end. Better Call Saul wrapped up a month or two, I think. And even next year, both Attack on Titan and The Flash shows that are also coming to an end. So many long-standing things are just finishing. It's like 2019 all over again. And of course, Ninjago is not an exception to this rule. A couple days ago, I think almost last week as of now, Ninjago Crystalized, aka Season 16, aka the last season of Ninjago, just came out, and well, the finale of it just came out, and fans are sad because this show that has run for 11 years has finally come to an end, and I am here to review this last season. What do I have to say about Ninjago Crystalized? Well, it's the closest we'll get to an Avengers Endgame for Ninjago, I'll tell you that. I really don't even know how to sum up my feelings for this season. But if I could try my best, it would be this season was everything I wanted. Probably not more, but it did meet my expectations. It delivered basically. It's not the perfect fanfic I had in my mind, and of course I don't think any Ninjago season can do that because matching up to people's expectations is a really hard thing. But this season tried its damnness to achieve everything it could for the entire fan base, and I give it huge respect for that. So my basic thoughts on this season is I love it. I love it so much, and I think it's even like in my top three favorite Ninjago seasons. There is a lot to talk about when it comes to Ninjago Crystallized. And for those who don't know what Ninjago is, I am sorry I cannot help you. If this is like my first video you're watching and it's about the last season of Ninjago, please just leave, alright? You can leave a dislike if you want to. Just leave. I have a Ninjago playlist. Go check out that. I give you more information on Ninjago. This is like for the die-hard fans who've come all the way here. And without further ado, let's break it down. What do I enjoy about this season? For one, I do enjoy the fact that they did advertise this as the final season, the end of Ninjago, all that stuff. Also, before I continue my thoughts, we're getting carried away. But for those who don't know, this video clips, because I'm not able to get clips of the actual show, I have been forced to turn to the internet for help here. So this footage video you see before you comes from the YouTuber Tana Fishies. He's a great Ninjago content creator. He does a lot of these videos, and his clips are amazing. I'll leave a link down to his video, well, his channel actually. He does a lot of videos, so I'll leave a link down to his channel in the description down below. Be sure to go check him out once you're done with this video. All right. Shout out done. So, after 11 years, gosh, it's crazy to think that this show has been running for 11 years. I actually remember I joined the Ninjago community way back in, I think, 2015. It was like after season 5 ended, if I'm not wrong. So like 2015, 2016. So for me, it's actually been like 6-7 years. But the fact that this show has been in my life for like 6-7 years is amazing on its own. And this show really has had a huge impact on my life. So when I heard that it was ending, I was very hopeful. But at the same time, this is also the show that has ended 3 times. For those who don't know, Ninjago actually had like 3 different series finales, not even season finales, series finales. The first one was in season 2, and then the second one was in season 10, and this is the third one. So if the show is gonna continue on from here, like I will be very upset. But that's a story for another video. Let's talk about this season in particular. What did I think of this season? I will say, out of the Wild Brain seasons, everything after season 10, so basically season 11 onwards, this is definitely the best one. It has the best animation. Like, oh my gosh, the animation this season is just spectacular. I love how it's so fluid. And it even kind of reminds me of the old, not Will Film, Wit Studio. No, sorry, that's the anime company. We are Will Film. It reminds me of the Will Film production studio. Like, I don't know, the animation kind of gives me that vibe where they're trying to mix both Will Film's animation and Wild Brain's fast animation. Will Film with like the textures and the looks of the world, and Wild Brain with the movements and the action and the colors even. And I do believe that the animation truly has found its footing, and very fitting that it's in the final season. Do I wish it kind of had a better footing in past seasons? Yeah, but the fact that it's good right now means I really just can't complain. And yeah, even speaking of which, the colors, oh my gosh, the colors are so good. Purple is like the main color for this season. It's like the theme on everything. It's the color the villain uses and all that stuff. And I did not know there is so much you can use with the color purple. Instead of all blending into this weird meh, where it just kind of looks like a mess, they actually do get very creative with it. And it's just like one color. So hell yeah, I give a lot of props to this season for its animation and its color. And even the action scenes. Oh my gosh, the action scenes are so good. I love it. The story itself, again, it's very much like Avengers Endgame. This is the final season, so of course there are going to be a lot of callbacks to former seasons. Obviously, characters from the former seasons are going to jump in to help the main characters. And of course, the big villain is going to be a villain we might have seen from the past. And of course, that's true. The main villain of this season is none other than the Overlord himself. The main villain of seasons 2 and 3, and was the most powerful villain the Ninja have faced. He's back for round 3, and what a round it was. I definitely do think this is his best entry into the series, and I don't know, he's such a good villain. His voice is a bit weird though. Sometimes you can hear what he's saying, other times he's doing that whole villain raspy voice where you actually need subtitles to understand what this man is saying, like English, my guy. But otherwise, it's a very basic story. You have your villain, he's coming to take over the world. The heroes beat him at the very last second with help from the other characters. And of course, we get a few consequences, but not too many that distracts the story. Yeah, that's the weird thing with this season, is that it ends with basically no consequences whatsoever, or whatever consequences are there just kind of will get reversed as time goes on. And I don't know how heavy I should be on the spoilers, because as it stands, the season isn't out in America yet, or at the very least the finale of this season isn't out in America yet. That will happen on October 10th. So for my American audiences, if you do not want to get spoiled, I do advise you leave, because I might have let a thing or two slip. But if you really don't care for spoilers, if you've already seen the season, stick around. So those are my general, spoiler-free thoughts. Now let's get into the actual meat of the show and what I really love from it and what kind of fan service I enjoyed. Because because this is the final season, there is a lot of fan service in it, and I just have to talk about it. So for one, what I really love from this season is the callbacks to the other seasons. Like there's an episode where they go to the Samex cave, and I'm like, wow, that's a callback. I even forgot that place existed. And of course, the characters from the other seasons, especially the Wild Brain seasons, do come and help the ninja. Of course, we have characters like the Serpentine who've been here from the beginning, who come in, but not really much else. I do kind of wish that the Elemental Masters, I kind of wish they came in just to help around, but I do know they showed up in season 9, and I feel like having them back again would be kind of redundant. Whereas the other characters like the Shintarians and the Merlopians, we never saw them together, so having them fight one another would be pretty cool. It is cool. And for those who don't know, this season was actually split into two, part 1 and part 2. Part 1 came out in like May, I think. That was like the first 12 episodes. And the last 16 episodes came out again this month. And now, and of course, now that they are both one, I'm able to review the season. And you can tell there's a huge difference between them. Part 1 is all about getting Nia back and, kind of dealing with the consequences of that. Well, and obviously setting up the rest of the story, whereas part 2 is now paying off the setup. And if I were to give a complaint here, part 1 just does not do the pacing very well. As I've said before in the past, I'm not a huge fan of how Ninjago is now doing 11-minute episodes, like a non-linear TV show. Like most kids TV shows, they would do like 11-minute episodes because there's no really overbearing story on it. It's just kind of characters having fun. So with Ninjago doing the 11-minute episodes, it kind of takes away from the tension and the consequences, because you need to cram so much story into just 11 minutes. And like other shows already struggle with keeping it in 22 minutes, like shows like Rick and Morty, which clearly want it to be more than 22 minutes, but they're struggling with that time frame. With Ninjago, you can clearly see that 11 minutes just isn't enough. And 2 episodes, you could easily see them be in 1 episode, but they're forced to split them up. So with part 1, I could tell there was a lot of problem with the pacing. With part 2, however, the pacing was like really good. In some episodes, it doesn't even feel like 11 minutes. It actually feels longer. I don't know whether it's the writing or whether they just figured out how to cram events into 1 episode, but they did a really good job in part 2. In part 1, again, it was still kind of getting on its feet, and I wasn't a huge fan of it in previous seasons as well. I do think season 15 really suffered because of the pacing, but season 13, I was able to let it slide as the pacing actually did allow for other things to go. In this season, there's also a lot of exposition, which I know to some people kind of turns them off, but for me, being a long-standing Ninjago fan, I do think the exposition does help. And considering if you're like a new Ninjago fan, like if you came into the show like in season 11 or 15 and you're watching this season, I do think the exposition actually really helps you kind of enter this world, and it's delivered in a way that it won't be confusing, though I will agree it is a bit much. However, the exposition didn't even really bother me that much personally because of the characters talking about it. I do feel like when certain characters are giving exposition, I was like, yes, talk about this, please, because, I want characters in Ninjago to talk about their lore, how pieces of the puzzle fit, and how they're able to solve a problem. Like there's a scene in which the Overlord actually tells the audience that that he's the one who manipulated the Great Devourer into biting Garmadon, and I'm like, that's so cool. There's another one where they're talking about how like Spinjitzu or their powers work around Deepstone. It was really cool. And of course, Dragon form and how it's formed with the jump up, kick back, whip around, and spin. Speaking of which, that's even more of the fan service I loved. Oh my gosh, the fact that they ended up saving the day by using the theme song was so good. Like, no, most other shows would have the characters sing the theme song so that they can defeat the main villain. I even think the Penguins of Madagascar kind of did this at one point. But with this show, they didn't sing the theme song. They used the theme song. They really jumped up, kicked back, whipped around, and spun the villains to death. And I freaking loved that. It was so good. That is how you use fan service well. Oh, and get this. They figured out that secret by folding a piece of paper. Get it? The fold, as in the band who created the music or who created the theme song for Ninjago. Like, bro, what did they like? I don't know. You could say it's on the nose, but I'm just like, where the hell did they think this stuff up? Now, I have heard complaints about the final battle. A lot of people actually didn't really like how the last episode went down with the way they defeated the villain. I thought it was okay. It definitely reminded me of season two's finale, which is definitely what they were going for. This was by design. They wanted to mirror the finale of season two by being the real final battle with Lloyd using a golden dragon to defeat the Overlord. But in that case, he actually like defeated him in a super golden blast. Whereas in this one, he defeats the Overlord by just blasting with all the elements and then breaking him apart like he's made of glass. So I understand why people think it's a bit of a letdown, but I kind of see it was by design. Lloyd defeats the Overlord like that in a kind of nonchalant way, showing that, yeah, he'll probably come back one day. But as it stands, we beat him with creation, and Ninjago is safe for a while. So if he does come back, we'll be ready for him. If he doesn't come back, oh well, we won the day. I was fine with it. And the fact that he was paying homage to that final battle, I was okay with it. I was actually real worried that Lloyd was gonna jack the ending, because you guys know I have a lot of feelings about it, but like every time we get to a new season finale, every time it seems like a character's gonna get some development, Lloyd always seems to jack the ending for himself. He did it in season 4, he did it in season 11, and he's done it like, I think, a bunch of other seasons. I think, yeah, even season 10, he's jacked the ending a lot. So the fact that that in this case it was done by design, that he would help the dragon defeat the Overlord, it was pretty cool. I do wish the ninja themselves did transform into a dragon. I do think that would have been a lot cooler, but the fact that it was their powers, it's like, it's a close second. I don't mind it too much. Speaking of which, let's talk about the character work. I feel like characters got a lot of development in this season. Obviously, we have Lloyd and with his main character syndrome up in here, but I do think he actually had some of the best character dynamics with the others. I really like the way he and Garmadon bounced off each other, trying to find some common ground for them to stand on, to reconnect. I liked how he tried to convince Harumi to join his side, and it wasn't until the very end that Harumi joined his side, which Harumi is like a whole other case, but I'll get to her in a second. But I do appreciate how he still tried to get Harumi onto his side. I do wish we got a bit more viciousness from him. I do wish he kind of snapped at Harumi like more than once, but it was alright. I especially really like this section in part 2, where for a couple of episodes the ninja were separated. Like Kai and Cole were on their own, Wu with a bunch of kids, Lloyd and Garmadon were in the sewers, and Jay and E were barely surviving. Oh, and Zane and Pixel had their own thing going on. It really gave time for each of these characters to shine, doing their own thing as they prepared for the final battle. Those couple episodes were really good. I enjoyed them a lot, and I really do think they did some good character work. Of course, even Wu got some good character work as well. I know a lot of people were expecting him to die because the mentor dies, and like it's the final season, so we need a death. But the fact that they didn't kill him is interesting. But I really did like his character a lot in this season, especially how he and Garmadon also bounced off each other in terms of their dynamic. And there's this cool episode I just love so much where Wu is fighting the Overlord. He's like, my father told me stories about you. I was afraid of you when I was a kid. You're like the boogeyman to me. And it's just, I don't know, but that fight scene was so cool. It's one of like my favorite fight scenes in all of Ninjago. It's like short. It's like 2 minutes long, but it's just done so well. The animation is fluid. The colors are great. The fact that the characters are like kind of just dumping lore on each other about why they hate each other, why they're fighting. It looks so good. It's like the most anime battle I've actually ever seen in Ninjago. It's amazing. And of course, as I said, I've already talked about how other characters got development. At least my guy Kai wasn't backseated again this season, though there was a pretty cringe scene between him and Skylar. How they're not a couple yet is beyond me. And as for the other fan servicey things, as I mentioned, I do wish a lot of them did make it into this final season. Like, you guys know, I have this whole theory of if the final Oni mask is destroyed, Gamadon will die. Yeah, it never showed up in this season, so we'll never know. I kind of wish they referenced Narakan or the Time Twins, something to at least allude to the future, but as it stands, nothing on that yet. But otherwise, I can't even complain. This season is the closest I've ever had to a fanfiction of Ninjago, coming out. As you guys know, on Wattpad, I do have a Ninjago fanfic. But there's actually another one I wrote as a kid, which doesn't exist anymore. But as a kid, I always imagined that the villain would use a floating island to fight the ninja. Maybe a ninja would sacrifice themselves to finally beat the villain. This ninja was going to be Cole, in my opinion. Like, this would be when Cole dies, just to pay off the flashback in season 5, which they don't even reference, but whatever. And yeah, the main villain was gonna be the Overlord again. The Overlord would officially die, and it was, I don't know, a lot of the things I had from that fanfic when I was young do come to life here. The Overlord's the main villain. A bunch of the other villains have been recruited. The freaking floating island is a thing in this season. I don't know, man. It's like a dream come true for me. This is the closest I have ever gotten to an Ninjago fanfiction being realized. This season and season 9, it is so good. I like, the kid in me was so happy, and there are actually a lot of moments in this season that made me go, yes, yeah, woo, yeah, baby. That's what I've been waiting for. That's what I'm talking about. Woohoo! Like, yeah, there were a lot of fan servicey, cheery moments in this season, and it was good. It was a lot of good and a lot of fun. Obviously, these little things I'm saying are more or less just nitpicks, but if we're really talking about, like, real complaints, I would say the only complaints I'd have for this season would be a bit of pacing, especially in the first half, and a bit of the humor. In the back half, they really tried their hand at humor, trying to balance the story with jokes, but for some reason, it didn't work. Like, in the show, I was really invested with the story and the stakes and the seriousness of the characters. But every time they paused to take a joke, it actually kind of took me out of the episode. I'm like, it's joke time. Okay, I mean, I guess it's a joke, but I'm not laughing really. Like, I didn't really laugh a lot in this season. And yeah, I mean, some of the annoying characters actually don't even really do much. I know a lot of people really hate Kilo and Ultraviolet, the Sons of Gamadon. I don't have a thing against them. I'm fine with them. I know a lot of people do hate Fugitive and Dareth. The good news is Dareth doesn't appear for like 2 episodes, and when he does, it's like, I mean, he only appears for like 2 episodes, but when he does, he is kind of annoying. This is not my favorite version of Dareth. You guys know I love Dareth from like season 7 and season 9. This was not my favorite version of Dareth. Fugidove is, yeah, no, he was annoying. I mean, they tried to make him likable, but he was just hella annoying. I don't know why they kept writing him into episodes. I also do wish the Council of the Crystal King got more to do. They only really did much in the final arc where they got their butts handed to them by the ninja and their weapons taken back. I do wish we got more episodes of them using their powers against the ninja, like using the golden weapons against the ninja, and the ninja being forced to fight against them. Having to face off against the powers that made them who they are. I think that would have been a lot cooler. But I understand the writers kind of wrote themselves into a corner, and to have fights like that would have just stretched out the runtime and the episode number, and it just wouldn't have been worth it. But I do think it would have been really cool, especially like Kai fighting Pythor one-on-one against the Soa. That would have been really cool. But again, he only does that when he unlocks dragon form. It's not the best thing in the world. I do like, again, how the council do bounce off each other in terms of their character. I do wish we got to see more of that. I kind of wish they confirmed that Mr. E was Echo Zane, but they don't really do that. They just kind of crush him under a building and call it a day. So a bit of a sad one for me. I really do wish he was confirmed to be Mr. E in the show. How crazy would that have been? And and obviously, as I mentioned, the Overlord, he's a good villain. His voice is really the only thing that's throwing me off. Otherwise, I love his design. I love his final design, though he really doesn't do much with it. It's not like he moves around a lot with it. In fact, with his first design, he had even better fight scenes, so you tell me that. And the fact that Oni power was one of the only things that could hurt him, that was really cool. Seeing Gamadon in his Oni form fighting against him. Oni Lloyd was something that was built out, but wasn't around that much. I know a lot of people were pissed off that they didn't get a lot of Oni Lloyd. I was indifferent to it. I didn't really care about Oni Lloyd. But I do like how they resolve the problem. Lloyd realizes that he can't use his Oni powers to fight the Overlord. You can't use evil to defeat evil, because at that point in time you're not better than them. So at the end, they do use the dragon and the power of creation to defeat the Overlord, much like how they defeated the Oni and the Overlord the first time around. It was a really cool message and a nice little subversion. How they kept building up the Oni power, only to be like, psych, there's a better way. It was pretty cool in my opinion. Yeah, as I mentioned, a lot of moments in this season do remind me that, oh yeah, it's a kids show. I already mentioned how the humor just felt out of place, but also the way they kept phrasing words. Because every time a character wanted to kill another character, it was always be destroyed or I will destroy you or whatever. They always kept using destroy instead of kill or death. It was very distracting to say the least. Because like it's not like they refrained from saying death before. So I don't know why in this season they were so heavily censoring the words. It was weird. And then of course we have Harumi. Yeah, Harumi is a very confusing character this season. I'm not a huge fan of Harumi. I never really loved her as a character. I didn't. I thought she was an okay villain for season 8, and I really liked her death in season 9. And I really did not want to see her back. I wasn't. I wasn't dying for Harumi to make a comeback. And for some reason, they kept making callbacks to her. In season 10, they made a, in season 11, they made a callback to her. In season 12, she appears as a video game character. And here, finally, she's available as like one of the main villains of the season, which I'm like fine with. They explain how she came back, and I'm fine with how she came back. It's just not. It's just I'm not crazy with how she came back, and even her motivations are weird because like she gets mad at Lloyd over what happened with the Great Devourer, but she's working with Pythor, the man who brought the Great Devourer, who summoned it. Why are you working with him? Shouldn't he be like the first on your to kill list? And like, why is she fighting against Garmadon? A few seasons ago, she was idolizing this guy because he's the one who killed the Great Devourer. But now she's fighting against him. Like the two of them don't even have like a full-on conversation with each other. It's weird, and it's even weirder when you know Garmadon still has like feelings for Harumi, still seeing her as sort of a daughter. But again, the two of them don't even have a full-on conversation with each other. It's weird. And of course, we have the Overlord who reveals that he's the one who manipulated the Great Devourer, and Harumi gets mad at him and she turns against him because of that. And I'm like, girl, your priorities are all over the place. Same thing can be said for Lloyd. I like the man's is okay with Harumi. Like he spends all season trying to turn Harumi back to the good side, but when he meets Garmadon, he's mad at Garmadon, which is so weird. Because the last time Lloyd and Garmadon were together on screen, which was like in season 10, they actually worked together. They worked as a team to fight off against the Oni. But in this reason, Lloyd is so hostile towards Garmadon. Meanwhile, to Harumi, who a couple episodes before had tried to kill all his friends, he's still forgiving to her. It is bonkers how these character relationships work. It confuses me. You know what? These two deserve each other. It's fine. I'm not a huge Larumi shipper. I actually ship Lloyd and Akita more. I do think they're a healthier couple. Hell, I'd rather ship Lloyd and Racer 7. They had that kind of thing going on in season 12. I think that would have been way better. But Lloyd and Harumi, nah, man. Like, you want to be toxic? Fine, go be toxic, my guy. You do you. And then like we have the other couples in the show. Zayn and Pixar are like the most healthiest couple in the show. Followed by Jay and Nia are actually the most healthiest couple in the show. I really love their dynamic together. Though Nia, what the hell? Are you loving Jay more than your own brother? What the frick? Like half the things Nia does is for Jay, and then Kai is always like, oh, and Kai too, I guess. And it's very weird. And then we have Kai and Skylar, who for some reason are not an official couple, despite having things for each other in season 4, and then in season 9 they reaffirm that, but for some reason, no, we have to keep this will they won't they thing even until after the show. Screw you guys. They were supposed to be the perfect couple, but no, we gotta push it for whatever reason. It's not like by the end of the show or anything. I also see a lot of people ship Cole and Vanya. Personally, I'm not behind that 100%. I don't support that ship. I honestly really just see them as friends. And even if, I'm pretty sure there's like a weird age gap, isn't there? Because like Cole is like aside from Zayn, Cole is like the oldest of the ninja, isn't he? And Vanya, I'm pretty sure like Vanya was like what, 16, 17? So like that's a age gap between them. I'm not 100% sure I'm comfortable with. Also, why do they refer to Vanya as Princess Vanya instead of Queen Vanya? Like her dad isn't the king anymore, so I don't know why they keep referring to her as queen, as not as princess and not queen. And of course, we have the ending of the show, which, as I mentioned, is all about how the ninjas made a big sacrifice. They gave up their powers to defeat the Overlord. I'm not really gonna comment on this much because the show even says that their powers will come back at some time, just like how Nia's powers are slowly coming back. So obviously, by the next season or the next show, they're gonna get their powers back. I'm not even worried about that. But we do get a nice little scene of the ninja rebuilding the monastery, and every single character from the show comes to help them rebuild. It is a really nice and touching scene. I even like the scene where Gamadon planted Christopher and told him you needed your own roots. And it, in a weird way, I do like how the meaning of that, the meaning of the last episode, roots. Because if you guys didn't know, the rebuilding of the monastery in the last episode, that's the same monastery Kai and the other ninja trained at in season 1. Or in the pilot season even. Pilot season episode 0 or whatever, that's where the ninja trained and, learned how to be ninja. It's a very nice poetic ending. We ended where we began and we're rebuilding things, and all the characters and friends we meet along the way are rebuilding it with us. It's not just us 4 or 5 anymore. It's now all of us, and it's a really nice ending with a really cool song to go with it. And I love that last shot of Christopher, the roots. It's a very nice and very touching ending. You could even say almost brought me to tears. It almost made this stone cold Discord mod cry. But yeah, I really love the ending of this season and this show, and I definitely do think it's one of Ninjago's best seasons out there, if I do say so myself. Again, I think it made its way up to the top 3. But yeah, there we go. Those are my thoughts on Crystalized. There was a lot of fan service. A lot of it was done really well. I love the writing this season. I do admit some parts of it could be weaker. Again, maybe the exposition was a bit too much, and the humor was also a bit too much. They could have toned that down. But when the characters were talking to each other about lore and like recapping events, that was really cool. However, recapping events like from the last episode, a bit much in my opinion. The pacing could have also been improved. However, I chalked this up to the 11-minute episodes. Wild Brain, I don't know why you chose that, but okay. And yeah, I can't really say much. The characters were done well this season. I feel like every character was given justice and they all wrapped up their arcs really well. The animation's beautiful, the fight scenes are amazing, and of course, ending the story of Ninjago in a very meaningful way. And yes, Ninjago fans, I'm not dumb. I do know there's a new Ninjago series coming out next year in 2023. However, from the way the creators were describing it, it sounds more like a sequel series to me. More like how Legend of Korra was to The Last Airbender. So I'm assuming there'll probably be a time skip. I'm assuming there'll probably be a new main cast of characters we're gonna follow. The ninja will probably still be there, but I feel like they're gonna be more like background characters. That's what I'm hoping for. I really do hope this is not season 17, because if it is, I'm gonna drop out of the show. The show for me has peaked here. This is where it should end, and it definitely deserves this ending. And what a strong way to end a strong show. A lot of beats from former seasons. However, unlike season 11, it's not copying the formula from former seasons. It's using the formula to its advantage to end the show on a strong note. There's a lot of subverting this season is doing, where you think it's gonna do one predictable thing, but it does do that predictable thing in an unpredictable way, and I really can't fault it for that. So at the end of the day, I would give Ninjago Crystalized season 16 9 out of 10. I do think it's probably the closest we're gonna get to the perfect Ninjago season. As to whether or not it's better than season 9, in my opinion, I will still decipher that, but you will find out the answer when I do my Ninjago seasons ranked from worst to best video, which will be the video that comes out after this, and that will at least have more clips for me to work with. So yeah. As it stands, this is a beautiful end to the Ninjago show. 11 years of hard work have finally paid off, and I am glad to have been part of this show and its community. I am so happy, and I love Ninjago, and I love this final season of Ninjago Season 16, Crystalized. Without further ado, that's going to be it from me, guys. Thank you so very much for watching. I have been Captain Phoenix. Be sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, hit that notification bell to be part of the team, and wait for my next video, which will be all Ninjago seasons ranked worst to best. I think I did one last year, but now that the show is over, I think it's only fitting I do it one last time. Alright guys, I've been Captain Phoenix, and I will see you in another universe. Goodbye, my Rangers.